I went from a anxious, depressed, suicidal young boy to a man who's now making $5 million a year online, coaching thousands of successful business owners, husbands and fathers. And in this video, I wanted to break down sort of the journey from the beginning to where we are now and where we look to go in the future with the Empowered Man. If this is your first time watching the video, we run a company where we help husbands, fathers and business owners fix their marriages, reconnect with their children and find work-life balance. What does that mean? It means winning in three key areas: your health, your wealth and your relationships. And that's where I really struggled. I would constantly chase one area, which was wealth, right? Making money, putting food on the table, providing, and constantly chasing more. Throughout my journey, I've consistently sacrificed my physical and mental health and sabotaged my relationships. So I'll be breaking down sort of the start to finish and sort of some tools that you could use if you're a business owner, entrepreneur, husband, father, on how you can have a great life and not just make a shitload of money, but enjoy the journey and be happy with the days that you have remaining. Growing up, I didn't have a dad around. I didn't have somebody to teach me how to be a man. Fast forward to my teenage years and I didn't really feel like I fit in anywhere. I didn't feel like I was a good person. I didn't feel like I had much confidence. I remember I used to go out with my friends, drinking every single night, taking drugs, snorting drugs, selling drugs. And whenever I would numb myself with alcohol or drugs, I'd get really sad. Like there were moments where I would look in the mirror and just punch myself in the face while crying. I used to think I was ugly. I used to think I wasn't good enough. And I still have thoughts like that to this day. So the reason I'm sharing this with you is because, like many successful men, maybe you can relate, I've got this polarity within myself where I don't feel like I'm ever enough and I need to have more, I need to be more, I need to achieve more, I need to make more money, I need to grow my business. But there's also this polarity where I'm never enough and I'm not good enough. And then there's also this polarity, which is one of the things that all successful men have, where you feel like you're better than everyone else. So there's this weird sort of mix that happened within me. During those teenage years of not having a father and a role model, I really didn't know who I was. And I knew that I was destined for something more. I knew that I was going to be successful. I knew that I was going to make an impact in the world. I just didn't know how. I didn't know when. Part of the reason I didn't know was because I was struggling mentally. I had severe anxiety. Like I was constantly afraid that something bad was going to happen. I started developing death anxiety where I thought I was going to drop dead at any moment. And I started having these panic attacks where I couldn't breathe. So from the age of about 16 to the age of about 24, I was anxious, depressed, and constantly sedating with alcohol, porn, drugs, and gambling. My coping mechanism, because I didn't know who I was, because I didn't know how to achieve that success, because I hadn't learned how to be a man, was sedation. Now, everything changed when I met my partner. Her name was Anita, and it was love at first sight. I just instantly fell in love with her. I followed her to another country, and over the course of 4 years of being together, decided that this was the woman I wanted to marry. I'd always wanted kids, I'd always wanted a family, and things started to change. I found love, and that helped me a lot. Is when you have a partner and a vision, it's a lot easier to be in control of your life because you have something to aim for. As men, we need something to aim for. This is why we have wars and build massive buildings, is we're expanders, we expand. That was my expansion, a family. During that time as well, I started a business. I started personal training, making really good money, like 3 to 4 grand, 5 grand a week. This is 10 years ago. So I had a successful business, my anxiety and depression was starting to disappear, I had this relationship, and I thought my life was amazing. I finally found it. And then one day, my partner came home, sat down, looked me in the eyes and said, "Tony, I don't love you anymore." And it fucking destroyed me. All the trauma, all the doubt, all the uncertainty as a young boy came into that moment, and I spent 3 months completely fucking my life up. She'd decided that the relationship was over. I went on a 3-month bender, drinking more than I've ever drunk, snorting cocaine, popping MDMA. I remember there was one moment where I spent 3 days awake, meeting some random person in a warehouse somewhere in Sydney to buy my 8th MDMA pill in that 3 days. And the reason I was numbing myself was because I realized that I'd very much become a victim. Like so many men, I blamed the world for my lack of confidence. I blamed my parents for separating. I blamed my partner for leaving that relationship. And after 3 months of blaming, ironically enough, my father called me and I told him that I was having suicidal thoughts. I told him that I thought about ending my life. And I'll never forget what he said. The same father that wasn't there for me, not entirely his fault. He said, "You've got so much more to give and so much more life to live." And that struck something within me. And I made a decision in that day, I'm not going to be a victim anymore. And I asked myself, what's my role in all of this? What's my role in the relationship breakdown? What's my role in the lack of confidence? What's my role in the mental health issues, the drinking, the sedation? And it's like a veil lifted off my eyes. I realized that my partner had been telling me for months she wasn't happy. 6 months prior to leaving, she said, "I don't think we're right for each other." My response was, "Don't say things like that." And I just swept it under the rug. And this is relevant because it's a recurring theme in the men I work with. Fast forward to today, and things are drastically different. I have a beautiful wife, Rosie, who I've been with for almost 8 years. I have a beautiful daughter, Talia, who's 2.5 years old. I have a business that's coached over 2,000 men in our paid programs, 20 to 30,000 men for free through podcasts and content like this. We're currently working with 250 men. Some of them make $200 million a year. These are very successful men. How did I go from anxious, depressed, suicidal, addicted to drugs and alcohol and porn and sedating myself to running one of Australia's fastest growing and most successful coaching businesses? Well, there are a few key lessons I learned along the way. The first one was radical responsibility. My life didn't change until I realized that every single problem, every single relationship, every single dollar in my bank account, every single challenge I have is 100% my responsibility. It's not necessarily my fault. It's not my fault that my parents separated. It's not my fault that I drank too much. All those things happen subconsciously. I wasn't aware of them. But separating fault from responsibility, I am in control of how I choose to react and respond to every single situation. You can have people whose parents were like my parents and had an alcoholic father who go on to do great things, and then other people who become alcoholics just like their father. The difference is the responsibility piece. My responsibility in that relationship was I didn't communicate. I wasn't a great partner. So then what I did was I decided with Rosie, my current wife, to communicate well and be a great partner. In my business, I never used to make any money. We'd never grow. I realized that it was my responsibility. The marketing, the sales, the systems, the team were all on me. To this day, we have men come to us who are very successful in one area, wealth, but their relationships and health are falling apart, and they constantly blame. They blame their wife, they blame their kids, they blame being busy on the business. When you take responsibility of your thoughts, what you think, your feelings, how you feel emotionally, your actions, what you do and what you don't do, and your reactions, how you respond to the external parts of your world. Everything outside of you, you either react or respond to. When you take responsibility of those things, magic begins to happen. The second thing that really helped me build the business and have the relationship I now have, and I'll get into that in a second, was realizing the key 3 areas. There are personal trainers out there, there are business coaches, there are gurus. No one talks about this. You've got to have balance in 3 key areas. You've got to be successful in 3 key areas, and these areas all affect each other. They are your health, your wealth, and your relationships. So many men, I did this, we put our time and energy into wealth, growing a business, making money, more. In doing so, we sacrifice our health. We don't exercise, we don't eat well, we struggle mentally, we can't switch off the negative thoughts. And because our health is fucked, we're not okay, and then our relationships begin to suffer. We're more triggered, we're more reactive, we bring our problems home to the family. Now, you can have great wealth and be a multi-millionaire, You can have great health and be fit with the six pack and thinking clearly, but if your wife cheats on you because you don't know how to give her what she wants, everything falls apart. You can have a great day in business and you have an argument with your wife, and first thing in the morning that argument happens, you think about it the entire day. So you can't just have one area. You can have a great marriage and great wealth, but if you get cancer or you're overweight and you can't see your fucking dick, it affects everything. Those things are all connected, so you've got to have all three. And one thing I pride myself on in the Empowered Man that's allowed me to build this success in a very short space of time is I'm never focused on one area. I'm constantly focused on all three and how they impact each other. If business is going great, but my health is suffering, I will choose to sacrifice wealth and business growth to exercise more or eat better. And it's a conscious choice. That probably leads to the third lesson that's really helped me immensely, which is conscious choice. Most of the things you do are preconditioned patterns from before you were 5 years old. The way you get angry, the way you get stressed, the way you deal with conflict, the way you communicate, most of that is a pre-programmed pattern from before you were 5 years old. That's how fucking crazy this is. That's why it's so important to be a great father and role model. So if you think about it, everything's a pattern. If you fold your arms right now, it feels comfortable. You don't have to think about folding your arms. You don't have to think about bending the right elbow and then turning the arm 90 degrees and then putting your left arm over the top of your right forearm. That all happens subconsciously. You don't have to think about it. It's a pattern. When you fold your arms, it feels comfortable, but if you fold your arms the opposite way, it feels uncomfortable. That's the story of life. How you wipe your ass when you take a shit, how you dry yourself with the towel is all a pattern. So if everything's a pattern, then that means anything that's not working in your life, your relationship, your health, your business that's not working, you've built a pattern that's happening without thinking. You get into an argument with your wife, that's a pattern that happens without thinking. So if everything's a pattern, a set of steps that happen in sequence, and you realize that everything's a pattern, then all you've got to do is make that pattern conscious, AKA think about it, shine a light on it, and then write a new pattern. This is how I've gone from having a marriage with Rosie, my current wife, where I was working too much and we weren't having sex and I didn't feel appreciated, to a relationship where she respects me. She talks me up in public situations. She appreciates the hard work I do. She wants to have sex with me multiple times a week, because the pattern that I used to have was blaming her, getting into arguments, getting triggered. So it's such a powerful tool, making these patterns conscious, combined with health, wealth, relationships, combined with radical responsibility for your life. And then I guess one of the biggest lessons that's allowed us to scale to $5 million a year plus, that was this coming year, it'll probably be more, is communication. There are two ways you can communicate. You can communicate with yourself or you can communicate with your loved ones. And communication for me has been huge. The reason that my relationship broke down with Anita, my ex, was because I didn't communicate. I swept things under the rug. So in this current relationship with Rosie, I communicate to understand what the person's thinking, how they're feeling. And you can only communicate effectively with your partner, with your team, with the people around you, if you learn how to communicate effectively with yourself. Something I've been doing for 7 years now, I've got journals stacked in my garage from 7 years ago, is every single day I'll ask myself 3 questions. Question number 1, what am I thinking about today? I take the unconscious thoughts, we have 80,000 a day, I put them on paper or in a document online and I store those thoughts. What am I thinking about? What's occupying my thoughts? What am I focusing on? Question number 2, how am I feeling today? What are the emotions I'm feeling? How did I sleep? How's my energy? What are the emotions inside of my body? And question number 3, what am I grateful for? Like truly grateful for. Why is the negative shit in my life happening for me? Recently we had team members quit. Why am I grateful for that? What can I learn from it? If you can ask yourself these questions, what am I thinking about? How am I feeling? And what am I grateful for? You can see what you're subconsciously focusing on and you can switch your focus. There's always going to be something to be stressed about, negative about. There's always war, famine, negativity in the world. You can focus on that, or you can focus on shifting to the positive. It's not about positive thinking. You're allowed to have negative thoughts, negative feelings, negative actions, but it's about consciously shifting them. That's helped me immensely. Now look, I sit here today, a multi-millionaire at the age of 32. 8 properties in my portfolio, it will be 15 in the next 2 years. A thriving business with 12 team members. But what I'm most proud of is for the first time in my life, I can say that I'm doing it from a frame of happiness. Sure, I get stressed. Sure, I get triggered. Sure, I want more. Sure, I feel like it's not enough. But I can confidently say that I'm healthy. I'm full of energy. I have a marriage full of appreciation, love, respect, and thankfully lots of sex. My daughter looks up to me as a role model of the man she wants to be. I'm successful in my wealth, but also in my health and relationships. And if you've watched this far in the video, maybe something has resonated with you, and perhaps it's the fact that you know that's possible for you too. I've yet to meet many men who have all 3 mastered. And if you are looking to master the journey of being a modern day man, a husband, a father, a business owner, an empowered man, a wealthy father who's wealthy in all areas, then hopefully these lessons have helped you in some way, shape or form. If they have, subscribe to this channel, drop a comment down below, let me know your story, and follow the journey of the empowered man, my journey, and the journey of thousands of our clients as we make the world a better place by becoming better men, better husbands, better fathers, better business owners, the men we know we can be, the men our families deserve.